Well, percenters, welcome back. Thinking basketball, good offense or bad defense. The Clippers Kings game. Thinking basketball. Let's watch, react. Slap the logo. Slap the logo. It's been taking forever. Slapped it on this shirt.
176 to 175. That is the second highest scoring game in NBA history, trailing only the legendary 186-184 tilt between Denver and Detroit 40 years ago. Although that game needed 3 overtimes,
Who was that left-handed?
And this one only needed 2.
Number 7. I forgot he was really good.
The Clippers averaged 6 points per minute across 58 scintillating minutes, throwing haymakers back and forth.
Good offense or bad defense? My initial reaction, the offense is just way better. I always say offense always wins. You get good enough. The defense is always in a reactionary spot. So these scores, the game, every player is so much better at shooting and creating decision making. The game is just so much more offensive.
Fourth at each other all night. And it left me thinking about a question I get
Hand in the
every
face.
day.
Hand in the face.
Is this good offense or is it just bad
Got
defense?
smacked. Controlled around.
Before we break down this historic game, let's put into perspective how rare it is for teams to score like this. Between 1992 and 2019, there were more than 32,000 NBA games played, and not one saw both teams score at 3 points per minute. 3 points per minute comes out to 144 points in a regulation game, and there were 7 such Nuggets games in the 80s and 90s because they played this wild, wide-open style with some comically bad defense. If you're casually
Is that
watching
comically
teams
bad?
in the 80s and 90s, because they played this wild,
3
wide-open
points per
style
minute.
with some comically bad.
What are you going to do? You're a big guy and he stops and pops. That's what they teach you in elementary, high school. Stop at the free throw line and shoot the jumper.
If you're casually watching at home, this crazy sequence with 3 straight threes in 17 seconds might have a similar glorified pickup feel to it, but look more closely and there's a ton happening. Mason Plumlee tries to save a rebound, which gives the Kings a 5-on-4. Kawhi Leonard tells a teammate to pick up the ball so he and Russell Westbrook can guard these 2 shooters, but Kawhi doesn't want to close out hard because the 5th King can run in for a layup, so it's better to concede the 3 to Keegan Murray. But now the Kings have to match up because De'Aaron Fox is on the other side of the court. So he calls for someone to guard Westbrook, and even though Sacramento's back, there are only 2 defenders on the near side of the floor. Because in the first second of the shot clock, Murray was slow to recognize a switch on a...
I always call it the first 4, right? The first 4 in transition. What are your first 4 steps? Are you jogging or are you sprinting back? Right, if one guy is out of position, you force a bunch of switches, and then you get a bunch of mismatches.
Player who was still
if you move the ball quick.
Backcourt. So a second defender has to slide over and help.
Yep.
That leaves Kawhi open in the corner, and he drains a 3.
Get it
Of
out.
course, the Kings push it right back up the floor themselves, and with a small cushion, Fox fires a triple, and that's 9 points in 17 seconds.
That's just bad defense, Russell Westbrook.
Going fast again!
Russell Westbrook,
In today's
every athlete to be a
NBA,
good defender, he's just
elite
terrible at
offenses
it.
exploit
Takes
the
too many risks.
smallest advantages. The Clippers create a ton of space.
And
for
he's never
Plumlee to
focused
roll.
long enough or
Kevin
disciplined
Huerter's ready
long
to help
enough.
in the paint, but he goes to reset his 3-second count, and at the exact same time, Plumlee slips the pick, and Westbrook finds him with a beautiful dime. So the Kings come right back off the make, are in the front court in 2 seconds, and find Huerter trailing the play. Domantas Sabonis wisely screens Kawhi, so it's a wide open look. And how did Huerter get so open, you ask? He left Marcus Morris Sr. to go help in the paint. So Morris stayed with Kawhi's man coming up the floor.
There, you see how they hop and skip instead of run back and locate?
Doesn't quite get the message that he needs to sprint across the court, and that's all,
Right? Just that little thing.
all it takes for a fight.
Right? And then it's coaching, giving players the green light to shoot it. Normally you would set stuff up, but if you're good enough to shoot it, coaches are going to give you the green light.
Attack at the beginning of the season, and this is a bread and butter action with Huerter lurking under the basket, then darting out in any direction. So Paul George calls for a switch. Harrison Barnes realizes it's a switch, so he screens his own man as a counter. Herder
Smart play.
upfakes and sidesteps into some vintage red velvet. Here's a
Red
similar
velvet?
set
I don't
from
know.
the
I don't like
88
that, man.
finals, where the Lakers just switched the back screen for Isaiah Thomas.
Boom.
The screener is open, but inside the three-point line.
Why
and
wouldn't
when
you
Isaiah
just shoot it?
relocates like Herder, he's also inside the line, making a closeout easier. And it's Greener
Also,
is open,
your
but
power forwards nowadays, if this guy jumps crazy like that, that's an easy drive into a
inside
mid-range.
the three-point line. And when Isaiah relocates like Herder, he's also inside the line.
That's
making
Magic
a
Johnson.
closeout easier, and it takes a perfect pass to get a good shot. In today's game, complexity is typical. Plumlee comes up to set a pick, but
It's not really complexity. The game is still the same. Ball movement, man movement. Players are just better all around. There's not too many weaknesses on a lot of players. If you have 4 players that can dribble, pass, and shoot, all you need is one screener and dunker, and then you're good. Eventually, it'll be all 5 players that can dribble, pass, and shoot.
actually veers off to screen for the wing, who curls around and flicks
Boom, that's a
up
lob.
a lob for a dunk. And that dunk is open because at the start of the play, Nick Batum cleared out to the corner, leaving the paint
it's also
completely
'cause
open. Up a lob
It's not just
for a
that.
dunk.
You fake the
And
screen.
that dunk is open because at the start of the play, Nick Batum
You fake the screen, and then Sabonis has to respect Terrence Mann's going to turn that corner, so he sits
cleared
to
out
the side.
corner,
Right, he hedges to the side.
leaving
And then you get Plumlee running
the
free.
paint completely
And then he has to decide what he should do, chase.
open.
And then you got this guy running into a complete screen on the
And what's
bottom.
very
Right? Now Sabonis is playing no man's land, playing the screen. He's not playing the lane.
lingers
So of
too
course you're
long
going to get
here
an easy pass. And then there's nobody there to recover because you got 2 shooters in the corner.
this corner screen, there's no one to help over at the basket. On a play like that, defenses
happens
are
all the
worried
time.
about
It's
that
like
little
personnel.
exit screen to free up a shooter like this. So when the Kings run this play in the third, the Clippers just switch it to take away the advantage. But Fox attacks himself the other way, and when help comes, now there's only one defender to cover 2 passes. And so once Kawhi glued himself to the shooter, the Clippers were at the mercy of Fox's decision making, and it's a dunk. Defending these actions is a nightmare because
As players get better offensively, it's easier to pick up chemistry with players. Defensive chemistry is way harder because you don't know if guys are going to close out. Does someone have your back behind? Well, you help the helper and then help the helper's helper. Defensive chemistry is way harder because some guys will give 1 effort, some guys will give 2, some guys will give half. Rarely will guys give 3 efforts on defense. And if you're going to play against really, really good offensive teams, you need multiple efforts, not just 2. 1 is bare minimum. And for the majority of the game, you're going to get maybe 1 to 2 helps until maybe the 4th quarter. But when stuff breaks down, you already know who's the worst defender on your team.
when one
Rotations
option
are
is
late.
taken away, it simply opens up a new counter. And
Not
I'm
helping
not
off
sure
the
how
right
teams
guys,
are
not
supposed
knowing
to
the
slow this
personnel.
down. Having a center who can grab and go in transition strains defenses. George needs to get across the floor to his man, gambles for a steal, and that springs Malik Monk, who gets it back to Domas, who up fakes George into the ether with one hand like he's Michael Jordan. Across the floor to his man.
Right, that's not his man. He's on Malik Monk.
And
That's Morris's guy. And Morris is probably the weakest player on the Clippers on defense. Him and Russell Westbrook.
And that springs Malik Monk, who gets it back to Domas, who up fakes George into the ether with one hand like he's Michael Jordan. In the old days, most centers couldn't even really dribble. And if they tried to in the open court, it didn't always end well.
JaVale McGee.
Today's league is full of big men who can grab a board and take it.
I do
coast to
not
coast.
call
And
Sabonis
these
and
players are
Bam big
skilled
man.
enough to lead the break and play make too. Sabonis gives the Kings that extra dimension, spinning and twirling into passes. And he's not a great shooter, but he can attack space from the outside, and that's really
handles.
hard to defend in isolation.
Not
The
really.
Kings will also play the 6'9" Trey Lyles as a backup, and he makes 38% of his wide open threes. Compare that to the mid-2000s, where neither of the
Very
big
shallow.
men screening for LeBron here were shooting.
Zadrunas.
So the Pistons only have to worry about the roll man, and Cleveland has to fall back on the brilliance of James. The big men screening for LeBron.
This is so
here.
easy.
We're shooting.
Right, if this is LeBron now, I would jump and just pass it to Ilgauskas, or jump and look at Zydrunas Ilgauskas and rifle it to Varejao. You got weak spacing on this other side. 32 needs to slide down. 1 needs to slide a little bit. But LeBron dribbles around the corner, and then he just does LeBron things.
So the Pistons only have to worry about the
young
roll
LeBron.
Man, and Cleveland has to fall back on the brilliance of James to finish in traffic because the other big isn't a threat to shoot either. In
LeBron.
2023, nearly 2/3 of the league shoots 37% or better on wide open threes.
2/3 of the league shoot 37% or better. Oh my God.
Including a ton of powerful 7-footers. And the Clippers are one of many teams that will downsize at center to get more shooting on the court. Nick Batum has made 45% of his open triples in the last 3 seasons, and according to Basketball Reference estimates, he's logged 600 minutes as a small ball center this year, where he can play make like this.
Batum, all he does is catch it high
That
and
was
shoot.
one of 26 threes for the Clippers.
It's like Boris
the
Diaw.
4th highest total in a game in NBA history, and LA nearly shot the lights out by drilling 58% of these.
Don't
the
guard
highest
Westbrook.
percentage ever for a team with 45
KYP,
attempts
like what the
or
Warriors
more.
did last night.
All that shooting creates a ton of space. So a non-shooter can stand outside, 3 off-ball players pull the defense out of the lane, and that leaves Fox on an island against a bigger guard, and it's an and one. Here's a small ball.
So like right here, right, you have options to do. Do you guard the shooter or non-shooter? Like how much space do you do? If you're up tight on him, then you have mismatches down low. If you just back up and let Plumlee shoot it, you could let Plumlee shoot it. Or if he's smart, he'll just dribble, drive, attack.
3 off-ball players
There's always give and
pull the
take.
defense out of the lane, and that leaves Fox on an island against a bigger guard, and it's an and one. Here's a small ball set in the 4th quarter, and because George is so skilled, the Kings stick a guard on him, which means when they switch the pick and roll, a big man is pulled out to George, who can then attack him without any other bigs waiting in the paint. Compare that to 20 years ago, where Kobe
Shaquille
Bryant
O'Neal.
curls into the lane only to meet a wall of defenders because his 3 other teammates are all within about 10 feet of him. And there are no good reset options, so he resorts to a long isolation jumper. Today's NBA is like first-class spacing compared to the coach of yesteryear, where players have Grand Canyon-sized lanes to drive into without resistance. And this is a small lineup to boot, so Batum offers little rim protection, whereas teams used to have multiple shot blockers on the floor. And because Robert Horry is inside the 3-point stripe, Ben Wallace is just 2 steps away from an amazing save at the rim. But today's big man can't just hang out in the paint, and they have to cover way more ground, stretching out to the line, effectively removing a shot blocker from the basket area. As Mike Prada says in the great book Spaced Out, the court has effectively doubled in size because of all this shooting. So on a play like this, the centers start...
You don't need the court to double in size. The court is the same size. It's just the shooters where you got to respect and guard them. I've been saying forever, right? If you could shoot it at half court proficiently with no defense on you, just shoot it at half court. You're going to open up the court like crazy. One person alone will draw people out. You see it with Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, and just nowadays a lot of guys get so much more respect. So it makes the court wide open.
In the corner, Sabonis has to chase Batum around a screen. Fox recognizes he needs help. Sabonis slams on the brakes to switch back to Westbrook, but by then it's too late and the point guard is left to protect the cup.
You have to think about defense differently if you want to actually stand a chance.
On this one, Herter's out on an island, but actually stops Kawhi. The Kings are in really good position, so they repost Leonard. Help comes early from the baseline, but Kawhi throws an insane 30-foot skip pass into the corner.
Because he missed the first pass to Morris.
Recovering at the wrong angle to free up the deadly George.
He missed the first pass.
30-foot.
What the hell?
Kings are in really good position, so they repost Leonard. Help comes early from the base.
Right there. That's when you pass to Morris.
Line, but
right there. Look, again, still
Kawhi
wide open. Morris needs a stop, and he's going in for a rebound.
Throws an insane 30-foot skip pass
And Russell
into
Westbrook's
the
not
corner,
flowing to the ball.
And all it takes is Fox recovering at the wrong angle to free up the deadly George.
It's good to have giant hands.
The Kings made 18 threes themselves in this one, led by Malik Monk's half dozen off the bench.
Sprint
Monk
to the corner.
led the Beam team in scoring.
Go work on your
with
corner
32 of his
sprints.
45 coming after halftime, and this is simply too much room to give a shooter in today's league.
He's so happy not to be
Back
playing
in
with
the 80s,
LeBum.
this kind of cushion was normal because most players didn't take pull-up threes. That was a dunk because of a miscommunication chasing a sharp shooter.
That same thing, right? You get some shooters, people miscommunication on defense.
Around a screen, and we saw the exact same gravitational force in this game, with newcomer Eric Gordon worried about Herter's shooting, so he forgets to switch the screen, and there's no one left to help. Gordon had a really rough night defensively, so there definitely was some soft defense in this game, even by today's standards. He had a hard time staying.
No, Eric Gordon's old, and Malik
these
Monk
kinds
is
of
super
breakdowns
fast.
are really hard to cover up with the paint so open. The Kings also had their way with Marcus Morris Sr., who is supposed to offer more mobility as a small ball big man.
No, he does not move his
feet
feet.
were in concrete against Monk and Fox. So
Malik Monk is very fast. Swiper, he's even faster.
yes, a little of this could be called bad defense. Fox just randomly jumps out of the way here, but then
That's
Westbrook
terrible
still
defense, 'cause
makes
that's
a
Russell
pinpoint
Westbrook.
pass for the old-fashioned three-point play.
You need to have discipline.
Compare the shot
KYP.
quality you've seen in this game to before the three-point
KYP,
revolution,
know
where
your
teams
personnel.
were often looking for post-isolation shots, and in the 2000s, if they were running more pick and roll, it was often for a mediocre long two from a big. Offenses now
It's wide open. I'd still shoot it.
create shots against
It's not mediocre.
conflict.
It's only mediocre because you missed it. Good shots are the ones that you practice, the ones that
Here's
you
a sprint
take.
pick and roll.
You should be able to make
The Kings
them.
perfectly execute a triple switch to contain everything, but Terrence Davis is a quarter step behind Batum, who turns into Steph Curry from the corner. That is nuts. This possession
Grenade
is
mentality,
basically perfect
Batum.
defense, with the Clippers staying connected on every Kings cut.
See, Paul George not guarding the ball, so he has to give resistance into the passing lane. He does.
Switching all
And then here, communication.
the handoffs and
Good.
screening
Little handoff. Then you got
Yeah.
another thing for Paul George. He's going to guard
on the
another guy
outside.
here.
And they end up with the backup point guard isolating
And then this
30
is,
feet away against the 6'9 George, and it doesn't even matter.
right? They do all that just to ISO
Kawhi
gang.
also made a ton of tough shots in this game, morphing into second three-peat MJ from the mid-range.
Kawhi is so much better offensively.
This is good defense. It's just better offense. And since it's 2023, he can also make step-back threes as well.
Kawhi has improved his
Claw was
offense
so
so
hot
much.
by the third that the Kings started double teaming him,
Ooh,
and he
oh.
just said, "Challenge accepted."
Legendary.
I mean, you tell me, is this bad defense? Murray's a step behind, chasing him off the screen, contests the
That's already
jumper
a shot,
pretty
pump
well,
fake.
and it's like a practice shot for Kawhi. They tried to trap him, but the floor is
If you
so
could
spaced
catch it,
out,
you're
it's
open. I've
hard
said
to
it
cover
before.
with just 3 players, so Murray has to rotate 50 feet to the corner, and it's another Batum bomb. So even trapping superstars back in the day wasn't as costly because there were still multiple players in the tight confines of the paint. The Clippers hit 100 points in this one with 6:21 left in the third, a very good sign usually, and they had a 14-point lead with 4 minutes left until this wild sequence where the Kings came back with
Paul
their
George
defense and some
screwed it
sloppy
all
play
up.
from the Clippers that led to 4 turnovers. in
Gassed.
just 40
Well, that's when you're
seconds.
super tired.
On the ensuing possession, Fox took advantage of LA's small
Young
lineup
legs.
because there aren't any shot blockers in the paint. Finally, with the Kings trailing 153 to 150 in the waning seconds, they draw up a hammer screen on the weak side, but the Clippers switch it so Norman Powell is sitting on the intended pass, only for Monk to relocate on the pass and splash a stone-cold dagger to force overtime.
This is beautiful relocation by Monk.
Pass. In seconds, they draw
So they
up
thought
a hammer screen on the weak side.
Norman Powell, they were ready for it.
So Norman Powell is sitting on the intended pass, only for Monk to relocate on the pass and splash a stone-cold dagger to force
Westbrook.
Powell is sitting on the intended pass, only for Monk to
He
relocate.
points and he sees it right here, but he's running to the next pass. He's trying to go to intercept the next pass.
And splash a stone-cold dagger to force overtime. The first overtime was characterized by a bunch of back-and-forth tough shot-making from both teams. And the second overtime was more back-and-forth craziness that was sort of like everything we've discussed so far, just
Shootout.
running on a cocktail of caffeine and adrenaline. In the second overtime, the Kings again found themselves down 6 before they attacked Gordon on an island for free throws. Then, after a stop, Monk hit Kawhi Leonard with this nasty cut back across the middle for a quick 3 to cut it to 1. The Clippers couldn't
When you're
score,
hot, you're hot,
and so a
man.
contested 17-foot pull-up from Fox put the Kings in front for good, 176 to 175, before, ironically, a number of defensive stands from Sacramento
Out of gas.
held on for the win in the second highest scoring game in NBA history, and an incredible
Memphis and
demonstration
Kings, young
of
legs,
just how much basketball has changed
young
in
arrogance.
the last few years.
Gotta love
I
it.
could talk about this game
Up and
for
coming
hours,
teams.
So look for extra.
Yeah, mostly you can't play good defense for 4 quarters unless you actually use all 12, 15 players on your team. Guys are too good, so you're gonna have to figure out probably, if I'm an NBA player, scheme for 3 quarters of the game, try to win offensively 3 quarters of the game. In the last quarter or so, you got to turn it up and then change your defensive schemes and stuff like that. But the traditional philosophies for defense right now, it's not going to work against really good offensive teams. And when they get hot, it's over. You're going to get 150 points a game. You get 71 out of Dame. You get 71 out of Mitchell, 50 out of other players, 40 out of Kyrie, Luka. These things are so common. Guys are so good. And guys are just, you think, average, not even superstar players. They can definitely shoot the ball and score the ball. What do you guys think, man? Good offense, bad defense? Are you a bunch of oldies saying hack 'em or whatever? Or this game is not even basketball anymore? Let me know what you guys think. I think offensively, players are just too good because they got trainers like me, duh. Until next video, take 14 minutes, 24 seconds, or 1% of your day to get better. Peace.